So with this section, we're going to be discussing chapter 3, section 3.5, solving equations and inequalities with absolute value. Equations with absolute value, this is where we have the two straight lines or bars, straight lines around the equation. Those are called absolute values. So when anything you give you a value for x, if this was a negative 10, once you take the absolute value of negative 10, it becomes positive. Well, if this was a positive 10, it stays positive. So basically, absolute value kind of turns everything into a positive. It does not switch back to negative, only if you have a negative on the outside. But when you put something inside the absolute value, when it comes out, it becomes positive. One of the things we got to remember when we do absolute value is the answer can be either negative and positive. Why is that? If I put a negative 5 inside of here, we get a positive 5 when it comes outside the absolute value. If you put a positive 5 inside, it stays positive. So the answer can be written in negative and a positive, which is going to be a key thing for solving these problems. So once again, one of the things you want to do is when solving equations, you need to solve for two equations. The original equation and then the one by changing the sign of the negative of the number. So once again, we're going to move everything to one side of the equation just so we can have the absolute value equation by itself. So let's move the 1 over, add it, and that gives us the 5. So what do I mean by solving for two equations? I have the absolute value of x minus 3 is equal to 5. So here I need to solve for a positive 5 and I need to solve for a negative 5. That's the rule for solving for absolute value. You have to solve for a positive and a negative for each part. So if we do the math, take over the 3 over and add it, I get negative 2. Take the 3 and add it over here, I get 8. Once again, we do our check to make sure both of them are true, negative 2 and 8. Put it inside for x. I get 4 on this side, and I put it in the 8 for this one, I get 4 over here. So put negative 2 in for this one, 8 in for this one. We do the math, we get 4 for both sides. So both answers for this particular one is going to be true. So that's for equal signs. Now, when we do inequality signs, less than, greater than, less than or equal to, or greater than equal to, we still need to solve for two equations, a positive and negative, but this time we're going to need to flip the inequality sign. So here I have 3x plus 2. There's nothing to move over the inequality sign because I have my absolute value by itself. So I'm going to solve for the regular equation, the original equation, with the less than sign. So here, and now I need to flip this inequality sign and solve for the greater than, but change this one to a negative. So this is the other side. So we're solving for this side over here first, and then we solve for this side over here next. So I have to minus 2 over here and get 3. I minus 2 on this side and get 7. I divide by 3 to get rid of this. Divide by 3 over here, get 1. Divide by 3, we get negative 7 over 3. So we have to kind of do both ways. That's where the two equations come from. Take the 2 on both sides, divide by 3 on both sides by changing this one to a negative and keeping this one as a positive. So my answer is going to be in between negative 7 over 3 and 1. So basically what is this saying? If you choose a number in between negative 7 over 3 and 1, so you can choose a negative 1, we can choose a 0, we can choose a 1/2, doesn't matter. If you choose anything in between these two answers that we have here, plug it in for x, I guarantee it's going to be less than 5. That's what I'm saying here. So that's where the number line set up. And why do we use the parentheses? If you see a greater than or equal to, a greater than or a less than symbol, then we're just putting parentheses. If you see a greater than or equal to and less than or equal to, we're going to put brackets. And I'll show you an example of that in just a minute, in just a few minutes. So, but this is what it stands for. The answer on a number line, anything in between here would work when we plug it in here because it will, once we do the math, it'll be less than 5. So here we have a greater than or equal to symbol. So once again, I want to do both. So here's my original one. greater than or equal to with a positive 1. Now I'm going to change it to be a negative 1 and flip the inequality sign. So I flipped it here and now solve for this equation. This is where we're going to have the or. The other one was an and. This is when we're going to have an or. Solve it. We get x is greater than or equal to 3. And then we solve for this one, x is less than or equal to 2. So over here, I have a bracket because I have an equal sign. Because again, when you say less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, I'm including that answer. So the x can be a 3, anything greater. So it can be 3 or anything greater going on this side. X can be this 2 or anything less than it. So x can be this 2 and all these numbers are less than it. So basically what I'm saying for this particular one is you tell me an x on this side or an x on this side, and I guarantee you when you plug it in, minus about 5 times by 2, take the square root, it's going to be greater than 1. The only ones that don't work is any number that you choose in between is 2 and 3. That's not going to work for this equation. So that's basically how it's written. So we have it's going to negative infinity, comma, 2. So this one gets a parentheses because infinities always get parentheses. Because it's a equal to symbol for both, I'm going to put brackets around it. Put a union symbol here, and it goes from 3 to positive infinity. So this goes from 3 to positive infinity all over here. So this is pretty much all you have to do for section 3.5. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know.